Today, we're diving into a couple of aspects of setting that often fly under the radar, but that can totally transform the feel and meaning of your story. I'm talking about social context and atmosphere, the secret sauce that takes your story world from a bland backdrop to a living, breathing environment. To see what I mean, let's do a little thought experiment. Picture the exact same story and characters, but set in two totally different worlds, a cozy little hobbit village and a gritty cyberpunk megacity. Feels like a completely different tale, right? That's the power of social context and atmosphere. In this video, we're going to unpack exactly what those terms mean, how they influence every other element of your story, and most importantly, how you can harness them to create richer, more immersive fictional worlds. By the end, you'll have a whole new set of tools for making your settings come alive. Sound good? Let's jump in. First up, let's talk about social context. This is basically the cultural wallpaper of your story world. All the big picture factors that shape how your characters think, act, and relate to each other. We're talking stuff like the historical era, the political system, social class structures, gender roles, religion, technology, all the underlying rules and norms that govern the society. And here's the thing. Those factors impact everything about your story. They determine what kinds of conflicts can arise, what goals your characters can realistically pursue, what themes and ideas you can explore. If you're writing a romance set in a culture with arranged marriages, that's going to play out very differently than one set in the age of Tinder, right? The social context is like the operating system that your story runs on. So, how do you go about establishing all that big picture stuff without dumping a boring history lesson on your reader? The key is to weave it into the fabric of your scenes, to let it emerge naturally through your characters' everyday actions and interactions. For example, let's say you're writing a fantasy story set in a rigidly hierarchical society. You could convey that by showing a lowly peasant bowing and scraping before a haughty noble, or by having two characters arguing about the proper way to address someone of a higher rank. Those little details instantly clue the reader into the social pecking order. Or maybe you're writing a sci-fi tale set in a world where genetic engineering is the norm. You could hint at that by casually mentioning characters getting designer baby treatments, or by showing the social stigma against naturals, born without enhancements. The more you can ground those big social concepts in concrete, everyday moments, the more real and lived in your world will feel. Another trick is to use your cast of characters as a lens on the different facets of your society. If you have a wide range of characters from different walks of life, a struggling artist, a cutthroat CEO, an idealistic activist, a jaded cop, each one will have a unique perspective on what makes their world tick. Through their eyes, you can paint a multi-dimensional picture of the social landscape. But social context isn't just about the external systems and structures. It's also about the internal emotional experience of living in a particular world. And that, my friends, is where atmosphere comes in. If social context is the stage, atmosphere is the lighting, the smoke machines, the moody background music that sets the emotional tone. Atmosphere is all about the vibe of your story, the overarching mood or feeling that permeates the setting. It's the difference between a creepy, fog-shrouded castle and a sun-drenched beach resort, between a quirky small town and a bleak dystopian cityscape. And it's conveyed through all kinds of subtle sensory details and stylistic choices. Think about the way light is described. Is it harsh and blinding, or soft and hazy? What kind of imagery keeps cropping up? Withered trees and shadowy corners, or bursts of vibrant wildflowers? What's the cadence of the prose? Staccato and tense, or languid and dreamlike? All of those factors work together to create a distinct, immersive mood. And just like social context, atmosphere interacts with every other aspect of your story. It can reinforce genre and theme. You'd expect a different vibe from a frothy rom-com than from a gritty noir thriller, right? It can also steer the reader's emotions, putting them in a particular frame of mind to receive the events of the story. If you've done your job right, they'll be primed to feel tense, or swoony, or unsettled right alongside your characters. The trick to conjuring a vivid atmosphere is to engage all 5 senses and to look for telling, evocative details. Instead of just saying a room is dusty, zoom in on the motes swirling in the shaft of light from a cracked window. Instead of just calling a forest spooky, describe the skitter of unseen creatures in the undergrowth, the taste of decay on the stagnant air. The more specific and surprising your sensory snapshots, the more they'll stick in the reader's mind. It's also important to sustain that atmosphere throughout the whole story. You can do that by developing a palette of sensory motifs to weave through the prose. The clang of machinery in a steampunk city, the sickly sweet scent of magnolias in a Southern Gothic family drama. That kind of repetition creates a sense of cohesion and immerses the reader in a particular sensory world. You can also use atmosphere to mark changes in the story. As the plot thickens or the character's emotions shift, let the descriptions shift to match. A bright, nostalgic tone might turn more melancholy as a character learns hard truths. A creeping sense of dread might explode into outright horror at the climax. Used artfully, atmosphere can underscore and heighten the storytelling. So, to recap, social context is the big picture cultural landscape that shapes your characters and conflicts. Atmosphere is the emotional weather, the mood and vibe created by sensory details and prose style. Both are essential ingredients for brewing up a rich, transporting story world. To take an even deeper dive into the art and craft of immersive settings, I've actually put together a whole course on just that. You can find the link down in the description if you want to level up your skills and support this channel at the same time. But for now, I want to hear from you. What are some of your favorite examples of stories that used social context or atmosphere in a really powerful way? How did those elements enrich your experience as a reader? Share your thoughts and examples down in the comments so we can all geek out and learn from each other. And if this peek behind the scenes of great settings got your creative gears turning, go ahead and give this video a thumbs up and share it with your writing pals. Helping storytellers weave richer, more transporting fictional worlds is what this channel is all about, and I'm so glad to have you along for the journey.